The PIA, sadly, has not given us the closure we need in terms of transparency in the oil and gas industry. The president and his team seem to be fighting one fire, they're almost dousing it, and then there's another one. Remember when they came up with I believe it was Executive Order 40, which was where the president was saying that, look, let us encourage and change the fiscal policies around non-associated gas oil and not non-associated gas extraction. I mean, look at that policy now. Brilliant policy, in my opinion. But what has happened since then? Getting approvals, is it slower? Is it faster? If you say that tax release and tax rebates are for a certain period, then it also means that you said you'd increase the window or the capacity, or let me say the contract size, and then extend the timing. So it means that if I had to come every year for an approval, now I don't need to do it every 5 years. If the limit for oil and gas operations was $1 million, you're now saying it's about $10 million. But what has been the effect? And someone needs to tell us all the government, like, since we did this, these are the things that have come in as investment. So we're measuring it. It means that this particular policy, this is what we put it out for. This is where it has taken us to. That needs to happen. There needs to be more transparency. NNPC needs to be freed up to go the route of corporate governance, because you see, this affiliation with Asu Rock is not helping anybody. Let's put in a proper management team. But the first thing is to audit that organization. There needs to be a forensic audit. Let's look at what NNPC has done over the last 48 years. These are the things that we need to stop, and these are the things we need to continue. If that doesn't happen, because that is the body that sells oil and gas to the world for Nigeria, from Nigeria's point of view. If that organization or reorganization doesn't happen, if the transparency, these are the audited accounts of the 21 entities, this is where we are. Let someone sit down and look at this thing as a forensic audit and say, okay, these are the recommendations. This recommendation is from a place of, we've not run it well. These are the things we need to do to run it better. That's one. A lot of goes around renewable energy, and I think we've talked about that. How can we backward integrate? Those are some of the things that also are quick wins. The president and his team on CNG initiative, in my opinion, seem to be doing okay. But I found out also, and I stand to be corrected, they're holding back now in terms of details. If you say that I want 2 million cars, for instance, to have been converted to CNG by next year, the question I keep on asking them, that's brilliant and that's fine. What have you done from last year to now? Give us actual numbers. Don't put us in a ball where we have to guess. If you look at CNG outlets, mother stations, NNPC is done about 12. Greenville is doing a few. NIPCO is doing a few. But I mean, where is the space for conversations and actual quick wins with Meman and Nelson? So, Meman used to be more one in the past. Yeah. I haven't driven around any of those stations where they're doing CNG. Probably because first they were not built for CNG. But there's some quick conversions that you can do when it comes to CNG. Why are we having conversations in terms of pipelines or how much CNG has been piped from what location to what location? Some states are using solar for their tricycles. Some are using CNG. But there needs to be more conversation that is data-driven. What they're doing is good. And you find out that the more they do it with clear timelines and visibility and transparency, you also find out that we take pressure off public transportation. Because people will only move from point A to point B today by petrol. So if petrol price continues to go up, it has a trigger effect on everything else. When you move food from one farm to the other, if you're doing it by petrol or diesel, that's still a high cost. How do we get CNG into those places? Security. Before we talk about investments in oil and gas or anything, we are not feeding well in Nigeria because sometimes we don't have good yield. And it's down to insecurity. So what is the president doing and his team? What are they saying to say that, look, this initiative has gone live. These are the kind of bases that we're putting around farming areas. Do we want to begin to pull farming areas together so that yield in a certain space is controlled? put processing around those things so that, things like tomato, that for every 10 tomato you get out of the ground, probably 4 or 5 gets bad. Yeah. Are we processing it? Are we freezing it with cold rooms? These are things that I think the president and his team need to not be loose on, but to give us actual data. This is what we've done year to year. How much has been saved on subsidy month of month? It's not okay for Mr. Bagudu to come on national TV and say that the money that we saved from subsidy is what I'm sorry, no, you don't just say that off the whiff. Your budget and national planning, so for what it's worth, you should be showing us data that says this is how much was saved in January, February,